The Rams travel to Philly, face the Eagles in a rematch of a game we saw earlier this year. That one was in LA, and that was the one where Saquon Barkley went for over 250. MVP chance post-game. Everyone wanted him at the top of their MVP rankings, and rightfully so. The guy was cooking in that one. And that's obviously, to me, the biggest matchup. So, Kyle, I'm going to start with you. How do we think the Rams fare or stand any sort of chance not having a repeat affair of what we saw in that 37-20 blowout?
Well, they need to start fast, and B-Mac alluded to this earlier, brilliantly put. He said, look, don't let this Rams team start fast, because if the Rams team starts fast, you get out of your multidimensional superpower with Saquon Barkley, and you have to throw the football, and you've got to rely on Jalen Hurts and this incongruent receiver room. Seemingly, the passing game has not been solved in Philadelphia, and they have had the luxury of just being able to lean on that offensive line and Saquon Barkley. And we often say you can have an on-schedule offense with a really good offensive line, but if you don't have that explosive back, you're never going to get those explosive plays. Well, they have the catch-22, the perfect situation. From Lane Johnson to Jordan Mailata, these guys across the line of scrimmage have been dominant. So I expect that the Eagles will be able to start fast. They just better hope that they don't elect to receive the second half kickoff. Rams get the ball first. Matt Stafford goes down the field in that inclement weather, because Sean McVay's team, they're not going to blink. They're going to come ready to go. They're going to come try to play bully ball. That's the one way you got to play against Philadelphia. You got to play bully ball. So I anticipate both lines of scrimmage being up for this game. But you got to start fast if you're the Rams, or else you fall in that Saquon-sized hole.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you, Kyle. The Rams defensive unit, especially the guys that put their hand in the dirt. This is the matchup that I'm watching, because if you allow Saquon Barkley to do a piece of what he did in the first meeting, good luck. You're going home. Vacation starts now. But if they can find a way to have the success they had, similar to what we saw against the Minnesota Vikings, that would help the other two levels of their defense out. Because when you look at the secondary, A.J. Brown in the first meeting went for over 100 yards. They had a balanced attack going for Philly that led to them scoring 30-plus points and, most importantly, winning in the first matchup against the Rams. But if you can find a way to slow down one element of the offense and make them more predictable, that helps the entire defense out. And to your point about the potential climate concerns, snow, cold, that actually could help the Rams more so than helping the Eagles offensively, because the thing about Saquon Barkley, he's not a one-cut runner. He's a guy that likes to cut back sometimes, slow play things and use his patience and then take off. That potential snow could maybe slow down Saquon Barkley a tad bit and actually kind of neutralize and even out the playing field a little bit for the defenders, especially the defensive line unit for the Rams. So this is the matchup that I'm watching. And the last thing I say, the first matchup, when I rewatched that tape, I really looked at that game and I witnessed the experience that the Eagles had on their offensive line played a big part in their success against the youthful movement the Rams had on their defensive line. So let's see how much learning the guys like Braden Fitz, Derek Verse, Kobe Young, Brian Turner learn from the first meeting going into this next matchup against the Eagles, because we know that's been one of the more stronger units in the National Football League, the offensive line for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm curious, Kyle, your thoughts on the best strategy for the Rams in their defensive front going against the Eagles offensive line, because in that game, Saquon had runs of 70 yards and 72 yards for touchdowns, but those both came against heavy boxes. And that's kind of what the sort of, unfortunate part of really selling out to stop the run is if you still allow a guy a crease, well, there's no one on the back end or one guy on the back end to go track down one Saquon Barkley. Whereas if you kind of play a little softer, have two high safeties, things of that nature, yeah, maybe you allow runs of 4 or 5 yards, but then you have multiple guys on the back end. Maybe you don't give up those massive plays that we saw the first time around. So if you're the Rams defense, are you allowing them to really kind of get those short yard gains early and often, or are you really selling out and saying, hey, either we die by the explosive play or we win by the explosive play in this one?
Well, one thing that I love having in my back pocket as an offensive lineman is that a lot of our run plays involve combination blocks, double teams, backside, front side, center and guard tackle, tackle tight end. If you put more bigs on the field, there's going to be more chances for you to win against one-on-one in the run. And the onus is then on the defense in terms of gap control, but the offense in terms of being perfect play in, play out. What you saw there in that graphic was Saquon Barkley leads the National Football League in yards before contact. It's no surprise there. They have a fantastic offensive line, particularly in the double teams, both front and backside. But if you force these guys to play that 5-0 style pass protection in the run game, I can see it being a steeper hill to climb for this offensive line. Granted, still overmatched the defensive line of the Rams would be. It's a tougher fight to fight.
I do think, though, the Rams, just from like a pure, just when they line up perspective, and we saw it last time, this Eagles front is outweighing everybody by like 30 plus pounds. The Rams are a slightly built defensive line. Their DTs are sub 300 pounds. Byron Young is barely scraping 250. Jared Verse is really the only guy who you trust to go toe to toe. And it's like he's going up against the most physical tackle duo in the NFL. It's like he can't win those matchups. He can hold their own, but you're going to need someone to win their matchups. And I just don't think, unless they really try to create havoc, but slants,
stunts and pirates, yeah. Pirates and stunts is what, if you're going to line up in your base alignment, maybe you can roll a safety down, bring that nickel who's capped, maybe inside leverage on that slot guy, fire him off the edge, cross face with the defensive end and the tackle, create chaos. That's really the only thing you can do against this unit. It's just, in Jaws, they said, we're going to need a bigger boat. Well, we're going to need a few bigger defensive linemen, or we can cause chaos.
All right, B-Mac, I'm the last question here, and then we'll get to break. Jalen Hurts, say they do shut down the run. Say he's not a factor in the running game either, and it does come down to him to pass with this duo of Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. What's our confidence level that that's still a winning game plan for the Philadelphia Eagles?
My confidence level is pretty high because that is an issue. That has been an issue for the Rams, the secondary play. They've been vulnerable in that element of their defense. And to your point, Mike, the personnel is there for Philly. It's not like they're lacking personnel in terms of why there's been a disconnect or lack of rhythm, because they have dudes. We just haven't seen the chemistry. Maybe that was because Jalen Hurts missed the final 2 weeks of the season. There could have been some rust there. But if he needs to throw the football more so, I believe he can do it because the guys he's throwing the football to are high-level players. High-level players, you know what I mean? And also having Dallas Goedert back in the lineup as well really helps because, he's like that insurance policy for their offense. If anything else breaks down, you can always rely on him. And we saw how big he showed up for them against the first meeting in the playoffs against the Packers.
Can't wait to watch, and we'll see if weather is a factor in this one. Temperatures in the low 30s to high 20s by game time, possible snow, possible rain. The elements. We can't wait.